retail investors are increasingly accepting the need to diversify internationally to maybe protect their portfolios from the risk of a downturn in the Indian equity market. And there are many other reasons as well which would justify this move. So, in this webinar, market experts are going to talk about, discuss, and debate and explain that while most investors have begun their international foray by investing in, say, the US market, the world's largest equity market, investors are also now looking to diversify into other markets. So, what are the new geographies that mutual funds can cater to? How can they help you? And how can they help your portfolio? So, joining in today, we have Vaibhav Shah, who's the head of products, marketing, and corporate communications at Mirae Asset Global Investments, and Praveen Bajpai, founder of FinFix Research and Analytics. So, Vaibhav, Praveen, thank you very much to both of you for joining in. So, Vaibhav, I understand that now a lot of AMCs are looking beyond the US, and rightfully so. But is that kind of diversification for every investor? I mean, are there still some investors who should, perhaps look at pure US funds? And are there different investors who need to look at US plus other geographies, or are other geographies by themselves an investing avenue?
So thanks, Sumera, for having me on this show. I think so, like we've been discussing over the last 1 year, global investing as a theme has become a very prevalent and important theme over the last 12, 18 months. And we've seen a lot of retail as well as HNI investors embracing this theme. So when you start with global investing, of course, US markets is the first place that you would look at making investments, as US comprises about 40 to 50% of the world's market cap, and it's a market that you cannot ignore. But what is also coming out very clearly is that a large part of innovations are also happening beyond the US markets. And there are many geographies where you are seeing a lot of innovations happening. So I would believe that investors, after having started their investment experience globally through US funds, can start exploring other markets, like you could say China, emerging market funds, um, and European funds as well, to diversify their international investing exposure as well. I believe both retail investors, HNI investors can look at global investing beyond US markets, and I, it should be an important part of their portfolios.
Okay, fair enough. Probably, are you increasingly getting more queries from clients who are interested in, markets besides the US?
Yeah, to some extent, Sumera, yes. Though I feel in India, still, majority of the investors have not tested waters. I mean, they have not actually invested outside of India at all. So it's a very, very minuscule percentage if we see, overall in terms of the AUM that we have in investor portfolios. I think 99% of the portfolios still wouldn't have, any kind of allocation in terms of AUM, I'm saying. But yes, those who have already been investing outside India, those who have some sort of an exposure to the US markets, are now looking to increase their allocations and look at markets beyond the US for sure. And I think what Vaibhav said, markets such as the greater China region, Taiwan, Taiwan has come into the limelight because of the whole semiconductor issue. So a lot of people are looking at Taiwan. Then, of course, these three countries together, of course, which is overall greater China together. Other than that, a lot of US centric funds also, Sumera, are now coming in a very different format. For example, there is a fund coming in, which can give exposure to companies like Airbnb and Uber, which isn't actually present through the current, allocations which are present, which are there for the Indian investors. So I think within US also there is now the second tier of funds which has started coming in which I think we'll see. And of course, I think some interest in other markets. Motilal, I think, also came up with a fund which is now going to give exposure to Europe and Australia. So there is increased interest. There is curiosity because, of course, 97% of the investing canvas is outside of India. So that trend, I think it's definitely picking up and there is a rising interest.
Yeah, so maybe soon, if you can pick a destination for a holiday, you can also pick an equally exciting destination for your investing, right? Why
Yes,
not?
yes, yes.
Well, is diversification the only reason for an investor to consider an international, a pure international fund?
Yeah, so Mera, I think so. As an investor, you have to try and diversify your portfolio, but you should also say, can I play different themes which are not present in my existing portfolio? And that is some of the most important principles that an investor would like to think of while creating a portfolio. So when we see how the global world is shaping, we are seeing a lot of innovation, especially on the technology side, and a lot of disruption happening through fintech, through robotics, artificial intelligence, electric vehicles. Now these themes are not prevalent in India. As an investor, if you want to take exposure to these themes, you have to be present in, say, US market or China market, where some of these themes are taking shape well, and we have a lot of companies in this space. This provides you a decent investment universe to also look at investing. So ideally, as an investor, you would like to have a portfolio which complements your existing portfolio, provides you themes which are not present in your portfolio. Also, we've had discussed this in the past, that when you have exposure to, global markets, say US markets or China markets and others, the overall correlation of these markets with the Indian market is significantly low. So the correlation for US market is just about zero point 0.3 with the Indian market. So when you invest, say, in a global market like US, you are not able to, though the underlying is equities, you are participating in a different universe which doesn't move exactly how the US Indian market is moving. So it helps you provide the advantage of diversification, gives you exposure on currency depreciation, and again, themes not prevalent in India. So all these are very important advantages which investors can play through global investing.
Okay, Praveen, I want to ask you a question on allocation, and let's focus, on this market outside of the US, right? Now, if and I'm just taking an example. If an expert says that okay, you should have a maximum of 20% allocation to global equities, a large chunk of it an investor puts aside for the US market, right? Now you want to put the rest of it, whatever, 5-8%, up to 10% in market outside of the US. Uh, will that move the needle significantly in on your portfolio? And how does an investor actually gain or stand to maximize the benefit from these markets? Should they choose just that one or two market and therefore concentrate their exposure there? Or do you suggest that you choose, say, a bit in Europe, a bit in Australia, a bit in this greater China area?
Sumera, actually, these are very difficult questions to answer. Honestly, all of these markets look nice when we see the returns going up. But the reality is that a regular person in India who's not even investing abroad will not have the appetite for many other markets, beyond US. Because US, I think, primarily has to be the core part of your portfolio. For outside investing, at least you are very familiar with the names. So I think somewhere you also now have to go and check which fund are you investing in the US, because there are companies from Europe, there are companies from Australia, even China to some extent, which are actually listed in the US and are also part of their indices. So, what is your specific goal? What is your current holding, even in the US? And then you start looking for a geography outside. But I feel broadly, two is good enough. So, one is majority or US centric or the developed world, and one can be this, emerging side of the world, where we include this greater China region as well, or a broader emerging market portfolio. So, broadly, I feel one should be a developed market, next has to be your emerging market as a satellite, and the individual, the ski the stocks which are there in these indices, because a lot of these routes are actually passive, so you know that what is the structure of the index. I think understanding that and then just comparing how much is the overlap is equally important, because Nestle, it is a company listed abroad as well. You have the same shares in India as well. It's the same company, it's a global giant. So there shouldn't be too much duplication, that you're looking at diversification but it's only superficial. So but yes, around 8 to 10%, ideally, even in the satellite portfolio, should be there to have a meaningful, basically some difference that it can make to the portfolio.
Fair enough. Where what has been your experience as global diversification? Um, are investors more keen on, say, a geographic diversification across that market, or would a thematic fund or a sectoral fund make more sense? Like, I hear experts say that we don't have a lot of these new age tech companies in India, so look at exposure there. So therefore, is it better to take a country focused fund, or is it better to take a theme focused fund, considering what your requirement is or your conviction is?
Yeah, so thanks, Sumera. I think so. I echo what Prableen mentioned in her point in the previous point, is that when you start investing globally, there is a core portfolio that you would like to create. And in the core portfolio can be a broad index, which could be include a US index or an emerging market fund or a large, MSCI World kind of index as well. And you would like to have a satellite part of your portfolio, which could be 20%, 30%, and that satellite part of the portfolio could be on certain themes. So when we also look at constructing portfolios or meeting with investors, we try and see whether we can provide a core kind of a portfolio first, and then supplement it with a tactical portfolio. So definitely, large scale indices like US market, MSCI World, emerging market, or China, I would say, are one theme, and then you would go to the themes and play on technology or innovation disruption as the satellite part of the portfolio. Another key point I know Prableen has rightly pointed out is that when you are seeing that, like we've seen a golden rally in Indian stock markets, and there are markets like we've seen China, which is corrected 30-40% from its peak because of some of the regulatory issues which have happened. As an investor, you would like to get a better entry point. And we keep saying that when there is a sale, you should definitely try and take advantage of the sale. And I've got two ladies on the show
But
that will echo
Vaibhav,
that
what
sentiment.
happens is
So over
that
the
when
cycle,
there is a sale, then there is an end of season sale, which is what people are scared of.
no, actually, what happens, I think that now when you see on most of the sites there is a sale, and another 10 days back there's another sale. But when it comes to investing, I think so. When you get a better entry when the prices are in a comfortable zone, and that makes your risk reward seem much favorable. So, as investors, you would definitely want to look at a better entry point, and some of these themes or global markets can, be an area which investors should definitely not miss out on.
Okay, Praveen, everybody talks about the advantages. So let's talk about the flip side, since Vaibhav mentioned the point of sale. We keep advocating to investors that invest only where you understand, the fund or
The markets.
the investment thesis. Now, one thing about, say, US and Indian market is that there's a lot of information flowing, so people are on top of it. You pretty much know what's going on. When you talk of markets outside the US, unless a person goes out and actively researches the risks of that market, it's not very easy to know, right? I mean, for example, the regulatory issues in China, difficult for an Indian investor to keep track of unless you're focusing entirely on that. So, how do you propose that an investor, sort of shortlist, and how do they research? What are the things they must know before they look at investing in a market outside the US?
So Mira, see, of course, it's very difficult, I think, for an individual investor to know, let's say, even 30 Chinese companies or European companies. If we tell somebody to count, they won't be able to count, honestly. And even if they look at the portfolio, maybe they would be familiar with 3 to 4 names. Alibaba is one, Baidu is one. These are still names because they had listings in the US. So we know they are also part of Mirai's the other NYSE Fang Plus index. So a couple of names investors are still familiar with. But I think on two bases they can choose. Number one is, Sumera, that ultimately we do link, though there are times when the state of the economy and the markets do not correlate at all. But eventually you are looking to invest in markets where the country has a decent economic growth. There is potential for the country to grow. And if you're looking at the worldwide GDP numbers, see, 25% is the US market alone, the US GDP, and the next 17% is 16 to 17% is China. So I think these two are the most dominant economies in the world today. And such economies growing at 6 to 8%. The IMF, projections for the next year, US is about 5 to 6%, China is about 7 to 8%. So with such numbers, we know that these two economies are there to stay. Of course, I would not want or advocate an investor to go and we even have a Brazil fund. But how much do you know about the Brazilian economy or the size of the Brazilian economy? I think so. One is familiarity, not only with the stock markets, but in general, the strength of the economy. I think that's one very important thing. Uh, so that can be one shortlisting criteria for investors. And of course, the risks will be there, as you said, that, if you're talking about risks, there will be a risk because we cannot know. So even for Indian markets, we sometimes, at the end of the day, people try to find out that aaj markets kyun gire. So it's so hard to know. The same when we're talking about any economy, any market outside of India. So somewhere you have to either trust the index because those are the representations for that particular economy, or you trust a fund manager through an active fund who is actually doing all those the research work on your behalf. So passive approach, the index is in representation, so that's one good way. And for an active strategy, I think once you decide the geography, then you can probably go with an active fund as well. So either ways, but deciding to geography is the first thing. And the other risk here can be the currency risk, of course, because we tend to advocate global investing on the premise that Indian currency continues to depreciate, but there are times when the Indian currency does appreciate. We've seen that in the past, so that can actually hurt the returns as well. So I think the depreciation of INR shouldn't be taken for granted. And the nature of equities will not change. So there has to be volatility, and there will be volatility in those markets as well. But I think broadly going by the strength of the economy can be a good way to shortlist at least.
Okay, Praveen, just two quick follow-up questions. One is that since an investor may not entirely know about the market, but knows of the potential broadly, how important is it to know to invest in a better pedigreed AMC? And the second question that I want to ask is that a lot of, I mean, now increasingly there are a lot of funds coming into this space. So how important is it to go with, say, a big size fund? Would the AUM matter to an investor?
Not much, Sumira. In fact, the pedigree and the AUM, I think both really don't matter till the time. See, if you're looking at a FOF model, then again the master fund becomes more important. For example, if Edelweiss, it's the JP Morgan which managed the China fund. So that particular fund is about 20 years old, and JP Morgan is an established entity in the US. If we are looking at the new offering from Mirai, again, it is going to track an index. So the index stays, even if there is some issue, if there is lesser AUM, still it doesn't really matter because they are, at the end of the day, they are tracking an index, and the index has a very set predefined methodology on the basis of it. It is constructed and is rebalanced or run. Like I think they have a capping of about 8% on the maximum holding for a particular stock, and the way it will be rebalanced, the inclusion of companies. So I feel for a FOF model, it doesn't really matter how big the AUM is in India and how good the fund house is. Of course, I think all the 40 fund houses in India are decent, and we haven't really seen much trouble as such other than what we had in the Franklin thing. But that was, I think, very different. That was a debt issue. Otherwise, I think that shouldn't be the point of worry for an investor.
AMC's shifting their active funds towards the ETFs, like they're just, sort of altering their active funds into ETFs. So therefore, is ETF becoming now the preferred route? And, especially coming to our topic, if we're talking about global diversification? Is ETF the preferred route for an investor?
Yeah, so Sumera, I think so. Like we've been mentioning for a long time, that active and passive both funds need to coexist for an investor's portfolio. We've seen in, as per the latest PIVA reports as well, that there are large number of active funds still doing quite well in India. So a good blend of well managed active funds and low cost passive funds should exist for Indian investors. Now, however, when we talk about global investing, I think so investors can look at a very different approach to what is happening with the Indian markets. In the case of US markets, or most of the global markets, we've seen that a large part, about more than 70% of the funds, are not being able to outperform the index. In such a scenario, as an investor, you would definitely want to check what is the underlying benchmark, and can you have a robust benchmark for this portfolio, which can help you track the market. Also, another very key element when it comes to global investing is expense ratio. And we've seen low cost funds being having a clear advantage coming to some of the active funds. So I think so. What will happen is when you come to global investing, and Prableen mentioned that it's going to be very, very difficult for investors to know maybe the top five names of Chinese companies or European companies, etc. So for an investor to choose an active fund is going to be significantly difficult. The easier job will be to choose a good benchmark or a good index, like you've got, say, maybe a Sensex or Nifty in India. What is a good representative benchmark, say in Hong Kong or China or the US market, and choose that as a vehicle to make your investments. And definitely, low cost is where the entire world is moving towards, and an investment vehicle which provides you exposure at low cost. Why shouldn't investors embrace it? So, an ETF or a fund of fund, I think so, is a preferred route for global investing, makes the job easier for investors. As the time progresses, as a lot of active managers actually show you alpha generation on the global investing side, maybe investors can look at that element as well. But to begin with, I think so definitely having passive or fund of funds is a good way to start global investing.
Praveen, you agree to ETFs or passives being the preferred route? And within passives, would ETFs score over other avenues?
I think, Sumera, I'll agree with the active and passive. So I'll definitely agree that passive becomes much simpler. Also, I think we did discuss on one of our shows that how many different strategies now are coming within, we are having different kind of indices which are coming up. Instead of the fund manager choosing a certain strategy, it is the index itself which is providing you different strategies. So it definitely is easier, right in the beginning what you're going to invest into. The structure is so clear. It's not after the NFO is closed that there is an allocation which is done and the suspense is there, what the top 10 picks are going to be. Nothing like that. So definitely passives, I think, becomes very simple. You're tracking an index. It can be the ETF route, it can be via FOF, it can be via an index fund. I think that is depending on whatever opportunities are there. I think all three are almost the same. And but definitely passives in terms of costing, yes, especially investing abroad, because there's two level expense ratio which is there. There will be something which is charged by the Indian AMC, and then even the master fund would have its own expense ratio.
Understood. Vaibhav, Prableen, thank you so much for joining in. This was a very, very interesting topic. And for everybody who's watching, I hope you enjoyed listening to it. So the next time you're looking at the globe, don't just think of planning, looking at a destination as a holiday destination. You can also look at it as an investment destination. Just don't get too creative or exotic with it. You want to stick to what you know and understand. So thanks, guys, once again for explaining this.
Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you for watching. Stay safe, everybody. And if you have any feedback, we look forward to hearing from you.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all the scheme-related documents carefully.